Arcane, among many other things, portrayed parental relationships which included fatherly ones. Some fathers of Arcane were reliable, some were protective, some tried their best but ultimately failed, some were absent, and some were present but very much destructive. In this video I want to discuss Silco's relationship with Jinx, mention Vander while at it, and discuss Marcus and Tobias Kiramman. That sounded like they're a couple. Discuss Tobias Kiramman and Marcus. So I guess we have to start by saying that Silco never actually aimed to get Powder. His main goal was Vi, which he revealed when he confronted Vi.
Candidly, I thought you were the prize of your second-hand family. But Jinx, she is more than I ever imagined.
So it was failing to obtain Vi that led to Silco building a relationship with Powder, which surprised him at the time when she decided to hug him. We have to realize that Silco is a very complex character, very complex antagonist, probably one of the best ones I have ever seen in any show or movie or a book. He's complicated. He wasn't always that way. He wasn't that way that he is right now. We know that very much like Jinx, he once was a better person, a person that became a brother to Vander. Until the very end, they actually called each other brothers. Even when Vander was dead, Silco went to his sculpture and called Vander his brother, but I'll get to that later. We know that they fell apart at a certain point. We know that their views of revolution differed. We don't actually know what happened, but we do know that Silco stabbed Vander back then in self-defense, in a response to Vander trying to drown him in the waters of Stillwater, very much toxic ones. We know that that led to Silco's eye misfunction, that up to the very end, Jinx was treating. That is very much a metaphor as well. There's a very strong bond between Silco and Jinx that is relying on references between Silco's brotherhood to Vander and Jinx's sisterhood to Vi. It is very important to point out that, contrary to what some people might claim, Jinx and Silco's relationship was always based on a lie. When watching Arcane, you might not actually realize what Silco said to Powder when it comes to Vi's absence. It was suggested that he told her that she's gone.
Your sister's gone. You know that as well as I do.
Gone can mean many things. It can mean that she's either dead or left. Later on we found out that he actually meant that she left, that she abandoned Jinx.
All the time saying you abandoned me when he knew the truth. Liar.
That's how he fed her, with lies, with manipulation. That's how he was able to control her. That's how he was able to feed Jinx within Powder.
Betrayal. That pain that feels like it'll eat you from the inside out can either break you or forge you into something greater. You need to let Powder die, so the fear of pain will no longer control you.
By letting her know that she was abandoned, by encouraging her trauma, not healing it, even though countless times she came to him and she suggested that she sees Vi, that she cannot get rid of Klago's, Milo's faces, that it's a very strong PTSD for sure.
One of those firelight wackos was a girl with pink hair.
Silco never did anything to actually help her out, except for maybe taking her to the toxic waters of Stillwater to sort of baptize her in a way. He was trying to create a new person. He was trying to process Powder into Jinx, which was always referencing his own transformation from Silco prior Vander's betrayal to Silco after Vander's betrayal. Going back to Vander and Silco, we were told that we will find out more about that in Season 2. We were told that we will see young Silco and a younger version of Vander again. So we might actually get some answers when it comes to what actually happened between them, because we really aren't sure. We know that they had a different view of the revolution. We know that they disagreed when it comes to the upper side, how to approach it. if to approach it at all. Do we start a war or do we maintain peace? Silco clearly had some sort of a violent plan which Vander disagreed with, and he stopped him in an aggressive way, which was obviously an excessive reaction as well, because possibly he could have stopped him in another way. That shaped Silco, the Silco that we know, the one that's a crime lord, the one that's controlling the lower, poorer parts of the city by providing shimmer, a substance that's very easy to get addicted to. That day broke Silco. He said so himself. A new man was born. Now I'm talking about it all because Silco clearly saw himself in Jinx, except that the basis of that change between Powder and Jinx and Silco prior Vander's betrayal and after Vander's betrayal, they differed a lot. One was based on a lie, that Vi abandoned Powder. She never actually did it. She was taken away. More than that, Silco actually ordered to have Vi killed. If it wasn't for Marcus and his doubt, then Vi would have been dead, and Silco would be still telling Powder that Vi left her, that she abandoned her, to feed her traumas, to feed her PTSD, to control her, to manipulate her, because she had a great use to him. She was a person building bombs, she was a person that eventually obtained the gemstone, she was a person very much useful to his agenda.
Do you have any idea what you've done?
She also caused troubles to him, which he chose to ignore most of the time. Of course he cared about her in his own way, but I'll get to that later. Marcus saved Vi. We don't know why he did it. Even though he was a sellout, he was probably still a good person deep down inside of him. As a father, he was present in Ren's life. He was a good father. Ren's mother probably died based on that drawing, with an angel in the sky. Was Ren already in the picture when Marcus saved Vi? We don't know how many years passed between Act 2 and Act 1. We don't know exactly how many years passed, but since Ren was about 5 or 6 years old in Act 2, it's possible that she was somewhat in the picture in Act 1. Maybe Marcus's wife or a partner was still alive, maybe she was already pregnant, maybe she was already born. And if so, that would add an extra motivation to Marcus to save Vi, because he had a daughter himself. Marcus did sell himself out to Silco. He was very much angry about that, but he never actually found the gut to confront Silco and refuse him in a definite way. We know how that ended.
Tell my daughter.
Going back to Silco. Silco knew how Jinx's cave looked. How it was basically a representation of her trauma, of the day when she lost Vander, Milo, Clanger, Vi. Yet he never did anything to actually help her heal. He never provided any actual help. Instead, he created a fiction that Vi abandoned her. That very much screams bad parenthood. He was maybe there for her, and we know that their circumstances differed. It wasn't a healthy environment. It was a crime organization, so anything happening within it would be, of course, somewhat toxic. And if you look hard enough, you might see that Silco did care for Powder, for Jinx, except he wasn't able to be a good guardian to her. He did some things right, but we'll get to that later. Silco kept telling Jinx that she is perfect.
Jinx is perfect.
It very much feels like each time he said it, he was validating himself, his own post-Vander betrayal version, his actions leading to the deaths of so many people, people hurting, getting addicted. Since he told Jinx to let Powder go, it also means that there was a Powder-like version of Silco, someone good, someone who was a true friend, true brother to Vander. Now gone. It was only in episode 5 that we found out that Silco did not tell Powder that Vi is dead. He told her that Vi is gone.
From the dead?
That's why Jinx kept seeing Vi in different places, hallucinating. I was always wondering why she actually thinks that she sees Vi, at this point thinking that Silco possibly told her that Vi died. The fact that Silco was not the best father was also portrayed when he visited Marcus, to again manipulate him, to blackmail him. He built a house of cards with Ren, and then destroyed it like it was nothing.
Oops. Oh, so sorry. Accidents happen.
He didn't care for Ren's joy when it comes to playing with her. A person with good parenting skills wouldn't do that.
Can't you see we're playing?
There's also lots of other stuff that speaks of Silco's bad parenting skills. Apart from the fact that, like I mentioned before, they were living within a crime organization. There was also this odd physical connection between them that when I first watched it made me feel a bit uncomfortable. It felt weird. I asked my patrons about that as well, and Dan pointed out something that I would like to bring up. It's not enough to love her. He has to raise her to be a complete and healthy person, and he puts almost nothing in that. Like I mentioned before, Silco did care for Jinx, but it wasn't the same way that Vander cared for her, for example. He was using her, yes, but overall he also grew to care for her, especially when she found out that he's been lying to her, that he told her that Vi is gone. In his own eyes, he believed that he was a good father, or at least he tried to be one. He took Sevika's advice when she told him to give Jinx some space when she felt betrayed by Silco.
She'll come to you when she's ready.
He followed that advice and he waited for Jinx to come to him. And she did, of course. He kept an ashtray on his desk, an ashtray that clearly Jinx made herself for him. When confronted with Jinx, he actually lied again. He told her that he didn't know that Vi was in Stillwater.
I didn't know. Marcus never told me she was in Stillwater.
Which was true, but at the time he did not actually tell Jinx that he himself ordered to have Vi murdered.
I'll kill you if he hears you.
At this point, he implemented yet another manipulation. He told Jinx that Vi is only back for the crystal.
I wanted to protect you.
From what?
She and the Enforcer are back for the crystal. Not for you. Have you forgotten how she left you? Who found you? Who cared for you? Gave you a home? I am your family.
When in reality, Vi at that time did not even know that the crystal exists. Until the very end, he kept telling Jinx that Vi did not care for her.
She's lying. You'll be with her a day before she realizes you aren't that girl anymore.
You aren't lying.
I'm not lying. I'm on your side. I promise.
Yet he did attach himself to Jinx. He always kept telling her that it's us versus them. He kept telling her, we'll show them all.
Everyone else betrays us. Everyone betrays us, Jinx. They will never understand. It's only us.
It was episode 8 that showed Silco's true feelings and the way he deeply cared for Jinx in his own way. It was just not enough to let her heal, let her reconnect with Dayz. After the bridge accident, he took her to get her fixed, to get her medicated no matter what. He even refused to give up Jinx when offered to get his dream come true, to get a nation of Zorn.
And I need Jinx. She has to pay for what she's done.
They weren't her crimes. She was working for me.
His caring for Jinx grew stronger and stronger towards the last episode. He even went as far as going to Vander's sculpture, sharing a drink with him next to it, almost as if he was seeking advice from her actual father.
All we ever wanted. The boy didn't even haggle. And what do I lose but problems?
The very moment when he was offered the nation of Zorn in return for Jinx, he reached out to his brother. More than that, he still called him a brother, which means that deep down he still acknowledged that Vi is in fact Jinx's sister. Everything that I have already brought up paints a picture of a clearly disruptive bond. Yet, despite it being toxic, destructive, glorified, one cannot help but somewhat root for them, somewhat cheer for that unlikely bond born out of loneliness and paranoia. It was right next to Vander's sculpture when he said that.
Is there anything so undoing as a daughter?
Undoing means a ruin, a downfall. Jinx heard it, and that was one of the reasons she also took him to confront him with Dayz and Caitlyn. It feels like Jinx learned how to manipulate people from Silco. By that very table, she was trying to manipulate Vi into killing Caitlyn. She was trying to blackmail her. She was using Silco's methods, the only way she knew.
Make her go away. Please. Send her on her way and you can have Powder back.
Closer and closer to the very end of season 1, Silco's feelings became more true. He might have been very much imperfect as a father. He might have fed Jinx's insecurities. He might have based their entire relation on a lie that Vi abandoned Jinx when she never did it. He created a fiction because he wanted to project his own bond with Vander to Jinx's bond with Vi. But having said all that, it would be hard not to acknowledge the fact that he did love Jinx. He loved her in an imperfect way. He didn't know how to create a proper father and daughter relationship. He did not know other ways, so he ended up being a very poor father, a very destructive father. He never helped her heal. He never offered any help when it comes to her trauma. The only thing that he did right was actually being there for her. Except that he created that entire situation because it should have been Vi. It should have been Vi that was there for her. He took Vi away from Jinx and filled that hole that she left. When he told her by that table, with his last breath, that he finds her perfect.
You're perfect.
It was the rawest human connection built between two people who, regardless of their reasons, felt themselves forsaken and alone and found each other within that situation. Never mind that Silco built it, created it. Deep down inside that toxic, horrible, painful situation, they were there for each other. So I can't say that Silco was a good father, but they surely built a bond. Even if it was based on a lie, it was there. When he told Jinx that she's perfect with his last breath, that was the one moment of truth. And it was standing as an opposition to Vi not being able to accept Jinx for what she became. She kept believing that Powder was still within Jinx. Surely rightfully so, but in that very moment, Jinx needed validation for who she was. By that table, she needed to be accepted in her new form because she knew that she changed. And in that very moment, it was Silco that offered her that validation, not Vi. Which is very tragic because ultimately, it all took a turn, created a circle, went back to when Vi was separated from Jinx due to Silco's choice, and back to what Jinx became. How Silco accepted that when no one, literally no one else would.
I thought maybe you could love me like you used to, even though I'm different. But you changed too. So, here's to the new us.
Silco was standing in a clear opposition to Vander, a true adoptive father of Vi, Powder, Milo, Klanger. And it's impossible to tell a story of Jinx and Silco without also discussing his predecessors of Vander.
That path? This? It's not gonna solve your problems. It just makes more of them. We clear?
Vander was a peacemaker, a protector. He abandoned the path of war, he abandoned violence for the sake of being there for them, for Vi and Powder. He changed the moment he found them on that bridge, when he realized that his action led to the death of innocent people. As opposed to Silco, he was truthful with Vi and Powder. He was always protecting them. He might not have been able to provide a stable environment in the lanes, but he was as perfect of a father as anyone could be. He was protective of Vi and raising Vi to become a version of himself. Very much like Caitlyn in Acts 2 and 3. He was a moral compass in Act 1. He was teaching Vi that violence does not solve problems, making sure that she's gonna be there for others, most of all for Powder. He was a connector between up and down through his relationship to Grayson. While Silco was not seeking a peaceful path, Vander would do anything to avoid conflicts because he knew the bloody price of it. And that was the type of a father that he was. And as opposed to Silco, he was actually looking after Vi and Powder's relationship because he knew how important it is.
Protect the family.
What are you...
Some of Vander's qualities were passed on to Caitlyn. In Act 2, Vi associated Vander's words with Caitlyn's words.
You've got a good heart.
You have a good heart.
Caitlyn is there to seek peace, to heal the conflict between up and down, to find a connection between them. Caitlyn, contrary to Vi, to Jinx, was raised in a very stable environment by Tobias and Cassandra Kiramman. Kiramman clan was one of the wealthiest clans of Piltover. And values passed on to Caitlyn ultimately helped her become a person that might still play a very important role in that conflict and the war to come. She is very much like her father, a healer. There's a scene in episode 8 when Caitlyn and Vi reach Caitlyn's house. Tomasz is curing Caitlyn's leg using tools with a Kiraman logo on them. That serves as a metaphor of what they actually are. People trying to fix the conflict, seeing the situation as what it is. Values passed down to Caitlyn were, despite different backgrounds, not that different from the ones passed on to Vi by Vander. And it's exactly their values that connected them in their mutual fight against no other than Silco. Going back to Silco, because he was the essence of this video and what I wanted to say. In his own way, he saw himself as Jinx's father.
You're my daughter. I'll never forsake you.
In his own way, he tried to be a good one, except he lacked a set of qualities that would allow him to do so. His own past trauma that was not healed, his own relationship to Vander that he projected onto Jinx. He used lies and manipulation to keep her close to him instead of trying to maybe offer a house that would be safe for her, a home where she could heal after the trauma that she's been through. The problem is he never actually healed. He never tended to his own trauma. In his own way, he did believe that Jinx was perfect, which makes his last words subjectively true. He also believed that he was entitled to pursue whatever agenda he was after. He believed that he was betrayed by Vander, which legitimized his plans. He maybe truly believed that Vi betrayed Jinx, or at the very least that she would betray her. What he did, he saw as some kind of parenthood, that objectively speaking could never be considered a good one. And end of the day, he did share some qualities with Vander. After all, they both sacrificed themselves for their daughter. Vander gave himself up so Vi wouldn't have to, and Silco gave up his dream, the nation of Zon, so Jinx wouldn't have to be taken away. So whether he was a good parent, a decent one, whether it was enough of him to be present, I'm gonna leave that question open. I guess it's all up to interpretation. And I'm actually very curious when it comes to your opinions. Thank you so much for watching and Happy New Year everyone. Stay safe. Bye.